Hello, my name's John Hill and I'd like to spend 10 minutes today talking to you about acceptance and commitment training, which is better known as ACT. And I'd like to speak to you about it, mostly because I actually think that it's really cool, which I'm aware is not a word that we normally hear associated with what's essentially a behavioural therapy. Now this might be either because I'm a humongous nerd, or because it really is cool and I'm going to convince you of that fact over the course of the next 10 minutes. Because ACT is essentially a behavioural therapy. It's about taking action, but not just any type of action. Firstly, ACT is about taking values-guided action. There's a big existential component to it. It asks the big questions in life. Questions like, what do you want to stand for? What's really important to you in the big picture? Who do you want to be? How do you want to use the time that you've got available to you on planet Earth? The aim of ACT is to help people to get clarity about what their values are, and then use those values to inspire, guide and motivate positive behavioural change. So ACT is about values-guided action. It's also about mindful action, action which is taken consciously and with full awareness, open to experience and fully engaged with whatever it is that we're doing in the present moment. ACT gets its name from what's essentially its core message, which is about accepting the stuff which is outside of your personal control and committing to taking action that enriches your life. Ultimately, the aim is to help people to build rich, full and meaningful lives whilst accepting the pain that life inevitably brings with it. And it does that in various different ways, which are illustrated by this not 100% user-friendly or palatable diagram. What you've got in the centre there is the core ACT concept of psychological flexibility. And around the outside, there's 6 core ACT processes of acceptance, diffusion, contact with the present moment, self as context, values and committed action. Now thankfully, this can be summarised as open. Open to your thoughts and your feelings and all of your internal experiences, whether they're pleasant or unpleasant. Aware of the here and now, fully engaged in the present moment, present in mind as well as in body. And active. Not just engaged with the present moment, but fully engaged with your life, aware of what your values are and committed to taking action in service of those values. But the thing that I think is coolest of all about ACT is you can actually throw away all of this technical stuff, anything that even might sound like jargon, and use any one of countless really nice metaphors to bring the ACT processes to life. Now my favourite one involves you imagining yourself as being the pilot of a plane, because everyone's life has ups and downs, great days and not so great days, and sometimes it is kind of like you're the pilot of a plane, which we call the plane of life. And on that plane, you've got lots of passengers, and those passengers are all of your thoughts, feelings, memories, urges and sensations. And being alive is something like this. They're piloting your plane and hopefully heading it more or less in the directions of the stuff that you value in life, towards adventure or creativity or intimacy or growth or whatever else it is that really matters to you. And when you do that, it's like heading north. It brings a sense of aliveness and vitality. And as you're on that journey, your passengers are more or less constantly piping up, offering this kind of running commentary on the journey, on the direction the plane's heading in, on how you're doing as a pilot. And some of these passengers like to try and tell us what to do or where to go. Some of them are even a bit scary, kind of like monsters. Thoughts like, I'm going to fail, or I'm not good enough. Feelings like fear or anxiety, or embarrassment, or even shame. And what's interesting is, it seems that the more that we head north, the more these passengers start to pipe up. The more we follow our values, the more those thoughts and feelings seem to crop up unbidden. What's also noticeable is some of the very common but really very ineffective ways that we as humans tend to respond to these guys. One of the most common ways we tend to respond to those unwanted passengers is we allow ourselves to get hijacked. This is normally more passive than it is deliberate. We just kind of move out of the way and allow our passengers to assume the controls of the plane. It normally happens very subtly and very unconsciously. We just kind of mindlessly follow where our passengers direct us. We kind of mindlessly do what our thoughts and feelings would have us do. To give you an example, I've got a really important life direction around health and fitness. And the main way that I bring that to life day in, day out is by running. I've done 10Ks and 12Ks and half marathons. Last year I did my first ever full marathon, which is a really big deal for me. And day in, day out, the way that I tend to honour that value is by running to work. But not uncommonly, I'll wake up in the morning and my mind will be like a machine, already pumping out all these reasons why I shouldn't run to work, why I can't run to work. My mind will be telling me, it's cold out there this morning, John. And the streets are going to be full of commuters, I'm going to have to elbow my way through them to get to work. And don't forget that knee injury I had last year. I think I felt a twinge there last week. And of course my iPod armband thingy is loose and it scratches me when I run. And I can't possibly run with a loose iPod armband thingy. And it all seems like common sense, all seems very seductive. And the next thing you know, a week's gone by and I've spent every day on the bus, snoozing on the way to work, getting to work feeling tired and feeling irritable, and most importantly, feeling further than ever from actually pulling on my shoes and going for a run. And that's the problem as far as I'm concerned. It's not an issue if I miss running to work now and again. The problem is that allowing yourself to be hijacked by your passengers can become a habit. And it's just really not an effective way for moving forward in life, because our passengers are constantly contradicting each other. One minute they're saying go this way, the next minute they're saying go that way. Our thoughts are constantly changing. One minute my mind's going to be telling me, I'm going to run to work tomorrow. The next minute my mind's telling me, but I can't run to work tomorrow because my iPod armband thing is not working. If we always rely on our passengers to tell us where to go, we're never going to have any chance of consistently steering our plane north towards where it is we want to be in life. Another very common way that we tend to respond to these unwanted passengers, especially in Western culture, is we try to change them or control them or get rid of them. We struggle with them. So essentially, we land the plane, we jump in the back and we start wrestling with these guys, trying to throw them off the plane. And again, it seems like the intuitive thing to do, especially in Western culture, where people are always saying, hey, don't worry about it, or think positive. It seems like the normal thing to do, to try and get rid of them. But what I notice is, well, the problem is that these guys, these passengers, they love to wrestle. And it seems that the more that we struggle with them, the stronger they seem to grow. The more we engage with them, the more prominent they become in our lives. Sometimes we'll even strike deals with our unwanted passengers and sort of say like, listen, if you just agree to stay scrunched down there at the back where I don't have to see you too often, I promise that I will fly the plane wherever you want me to. I won't fly in any directions that make you feel threatened. And in doing so, we give up a little bit of choice and a little bit of life purpose, all because we're taking actions in service of keeping certain unwanted passengers quiet, in service of avoiding having certain uncomfortable thoughts and feelings. And we can continue this way indefinitely, grounded and struggling, or heading every which way but north and circling. But there is another way, and it's a way which comes from understanding two things about our thoughts and feelings. The first of which is that we really don't control them, or certainly we have a lot less control over them than we might like to think. I want to do a quick experiment here with you. I'd like to ask you to say out loud the first word that comes to mind when I say the words, Mary had a little. If you said lamb, then you win a prize. Notice though, how your mind just throws that word to the surface, completely outside of your conscious control. Another experiment. I'd like you to go back in your memory and go back into your childhood and try and locate your earliest childhood memory. And once you've found that, just allow your mind to settle on that memory for a second, bring it to life. Who was there? What were you doing? What did it feel like? And then delete that memory. Just hit the delete button and get rid of it forever. Any success? It's impossible to do. We have a lot less control than we usually like to think over the stuff that goes on between our ears and under our skin. But here's the other thing. We may have a lot less control over our thoughts and feelings than we think, but our thoughts and feelings don't control us either. We can do what we need to do. We can take action that matters, regardless of what our passengers are shouting at us. Another experiment here. I'd like to ask you to let your left arm just hang down next to you and go limp. And for the next 45 seconds, I'd like to ask you to concentrate all of your mental energy on making this left arm go numb. So just repeat the thought in your mind. My left arm is numb, I can't move it. My left arm is numb, I can't move it. And now, with that left arm, scratch your nose. Doable? Again, if you did it, you win a prize. It's absolutely doable. And if we can come to terms with this idea that while we have a lot less control over our thoughts and feelings than we might like to think we do, nor do our thoughts and feelings control us, if we can come to terms with that idea, then suddenly we have a choice. It's like getting a message from air traffic control. You're in control of this plane, not your passengers. Feelings can't take over the controls unless you let them. Thoughts can't hurt you. You're the one flying this plane. If we can take that message on board, then we have a choice. And the choice is to stop struggling with our unwanted passengers and start heading the plane north again. Now, when we do that, inevitably, these passengers will start piping up again, as loud as they always did. But if we can detach from the urge to struggle with them and notice them, create a bit of space around them, and keep on courageously heading north, then the first thing that's going to happen is we'll be doing more of the stuff in life that we want to do, more of the stuff that we value. And secondly, what often also happens is that these passengers, they seem to fade away a little bit and become less prominent. And what can also sometimes happen is certain other passengers, wise and encouraging passengers, they step to the fore when maybe they've been a bit drowned out by the mean and nasty ones in the past. So what ACT can do is show us certain tools and techniques that with practice can help us to get some distance from some of the uncomfortable thoughts and feelings that often stop us doing the stuff that we most want to do in life. Now, it's not necessarily easy, but it certainly is easier than allowing yourself to be hijacked by unwanted passengers. So thanks for your attention today.